Hey there, welcome to Dead End Street. Um, I'm Al. We're here to rank the albums of the. It's a band that I've liked for a very long time. They're back with a new album, a new tour. I just saw them a couple weeks ago. They were excellent. They have a nine albums. We're not going to count Solitude because it's kind of like a compilation record. As good as it is, I like to keep it to the studio records usually. But we're going to rank the other eight. We're going to start right now with number eight, which is going to be 2000's Naked Self. So this record came out after a 7 year hiatus at a very weird time in my life, I remember. So for multiple reasons, I guess it didn't really connect with me at the time. However, after hearing it for the first time in about 15 years, I think it's a little better than I remember it. Um, that being said, I don't think it really stands up to the earlier records that they had put out. It was released on the Nothing record label, which was run at the time, I think it still is, by hardcore the fan Trent Reznor. Um, and it kind of sort of has that feel to it. It's still definitely, Matt Johnson, but it definitely has that kind of feel. But I just don't feel that it gets as focused as the other records. Maybe not even lyrically or musically. I do like Phantom Walls and Global Eyes quite a bit, though. Number seven is going to be Hanky Panky, which is um, the album Matt put out in 1995, which is an album of all Hank Williams covers. So when this was about to come out, most of us the fans were kind of thinking he's doing what again? But you know what? It's really good. And even though these are covers, um, with Matt doing them, it just comes out sounding like a new the record. It really doesn't sound like an album of covers. There's certain, there's certain ones that are obviously Hank Williams songs because there's certain ones that are just very famous. But I think that was the point of the record is to do an album of covers and make them his own. Um, but as much as I enjoy the record, I'm not going to put it higher than his own personal compositions. But I do really like it a lot. I Saw the Light and Long Gone Daddy are awesome. And there's other tracks on there that are great too. But so number six was going to be Burning Blue Soul from 1981. Um, Originally, this was released as a Matt Johnson solo album on 4AD, um, which I guess in later years he thought just didn't really make any sense because if it's my album, it's a the album. So it was re-released with the title with artwork that would, you know, fit in comfortably with the other records. And it's a very interesting album. I think it's incredibly ahead of its time. I mean, it's 1981 for Christ's sake. I mean, if you listen to this album, it's really, I mean, like he recorded it in his bedroom and with some aggressive sounding guitars and some drum machines and acoustic guitar, things that people just were not doing back then. And some of the songs actually came out really, really good. Um, I mean, I hear a lot of Brian Eno influence on this album, which is a good thing for me because I'm actually a pretty big Brian Eno fan myself. But um, which is kind of weird because you don't usually hear influence on Matt's records. Sometimes you'll hear a little bit. You'll hear a little John Lennon. You hear a little, maybe Kraftwerk. I don't know, but you don't really hear much influence. But hearing that influence in here was just kind of interesting. I thought. Um, Icing Up and Song Without an Ending are probably my two favorite songs on the record. Interesting enough, Matt the actually performed Icing Up at the show a couple weeks ago, which was kind of a pleasant surprise. And speaking of the current tour, number 5 is going to be the current and brand new album, Ensoulment, um, which is the first the record in 24 years, I believe. 24 or 25, long time, like a quarter century. And wouldn't you know it, it's exactly what the music world and art world needed. Um, leave it to Matt to be the voice of reason in an utterly insane world. When other artists are just seem like they're lost and just kind of parodying what they're hearing other artists say, you're not going to get that from Matt Johnson, like ever. So, um, not only are his words speaking truth on this record, but the music is remarkable. It's moody, it's touching, and of course, it's human. His version of the human experience is always interesting and honest. The lead-off track, Cognitive Dissident, is an instant the classic. It's got everything you want from the stark social commentary and a great musical backing. Some other great tracks on here are I Drink My Coffee by the grave of William Blake. Um, I Hope You Remember the Things That I Can't Forget, Rainy Day in May, and especially Where Do We Go When We Die. Just a fantastic comeback record, especially after all this time. Just great. Number 4 is going to be Mind Bomb. For this record, Matt recruits a proper band to round out the lineup for the recording of the record. And in that band, he recruits the one and only Johnny Marr of Smith's fame. I'm sure you already know that. The result is a more organic and expansive sound as compared to his previous records. There's also a marked improvement and focus on Matt's vocals on this album. He becomes more of a singer rather than just a vocalist, which is pretty cool. Armageddon Days Are Here Again, Beaten Generation, Kingdom of Rain, all the classics. That latter track, Kingdom of Rain, with a fantastic vocal performance by Sinead O'Connor as a guest appearance. And then overall, awesome singles. August and September and Gravitate to Me are equally as great. I got to point out though that there's not much separation between these albums because I love them all, not equally, but pretty close to it. So like all of these albums from like 1 through 4 or even 5 are, there's not really a real lot of separation. Maybe from 1, yes, but they're all just great records because it's a great band, great artist. Number 3 is going to be 1986's Infected. For this record, for a record that has such a bleak outlook on the world, it sure is pretty catchy. Um, Underneath all the noises are great pop songs with some equally great social commentary. Um, there was a video made for every song on the record, which is sometimes hard to separate the songs from because I've watched the videos so many times, which I isn't a bad thing, because the videos were so visually stimulating that kind of ingrained on your brain in the image of those videos to go along with the songs. Um, but I think these clips actually enhance the songs, which I think he would be happy to hear because why do them otherwise? But if you haven't seen them, back in the day, it used to be a VHS tape that you either had to rent or buy to see all these videos because I think only the title track and Heartland were the only videos I think that you could see on MTV. I could be wrong. Um, but if you want to see all of them now, they're all on YouTube on the channel. And if you're a fan of the band, you haven't seen them in a while. If you never saw them before, definitely go check them out. It's pretty cool. Um, Along with there's a actual making of video on there, which is a pretty insane stories of the crazy lengths that Matt was willing to go to create these pretty interesting videos. It's good stuff. But honestly, there's not a bad track on the record. It's very influential in the years that followed. Sweet Bird of Truth, which has become like a live staple. I don't for them going forward. Heartland, great single, and The Mercy Beat are probably some of my favorites, but the whole record is excellent. Number two is going to be Soul Mining. So Soul Mining was groundbreaking in 1983 when it was released. It had a lot of elements of like new wave, post-punk, synth pop, industrial, which didn't even exist yet, and straight up just great pop tracks. I think there was a great jump in Matt's songwriting prowess from Burning Blue Soul to this album, and it's truly on display here. There's truly not a bad song in here. I keep saying that there's no bad the tracks. There just really isn't. It's such a solid discography. This is the Day, Uncertain Smile are pop masterpieces. Most people who are interested and have followed alt rock or college rock or whatever in the 80s, those tracks already. Um, or Uncertain Smile contains a fantastic and amazing piano work from Jules Holland. Um, it might be like the highlight of his career. And I say that, and I am actually a Squeeze fan, so it's actually pretty interesting to say. Sinking Feeling is a dour little ditty, and closing track, Giant, um, I'm pretty sure contains the basis for about 5 different Nine Inch Nails songs. If you listen to that song, you can pick out like the intros or outros of about 5 different Nine Inch Nails songs. I guess he wasn't, he was unapologetically the fan. He made that pretty known. Um, this album is unapologetically 80s, and somehow it still sounds as fresh as it did the day it was released. And the number one the album, in my opinion, of course, is going to be 1993's Dusk. Um, so after Mind Bomb, he moves forward with even more organic direction than Mind Bomb. On board for this record again is Johnny Marr. This record goes into a more soul and R&B terrain, not necessarily straight through. I mean, but there's definitely some influence in there. It's centered mostly around acoustic guitars and piano. There's no real drum loops or dance beats to be found, which is different for the record. It truly contains some of Johnny Marr's greatest guitar work. And I'm not just saying that like outside of the Smiths. I think it's just some of his best guitar work, period. Uh, Matt's lyrics steer mostly away from the more political leanings and focuses more on the human experience on this record, mostly about love and death. Um, and it's without a shadow of a doubt his best vocal record. It's very tender, very honest. He was going through a lot in his life, I believe, at the time. He lost quite a few family members. I believe his brother was one of the people that he had lost, which is heartbreaking. Um, it's another record with zero filler, but must listens on a very must listen heavy album. Our Love is Stronger Than Death, um, Helpline Operator, Sodium Light Baby, the very Mark Bolan influenced Lonely Planet, and the beautiful one of my favorite the songs, quite possibly my favorite, is Slow Motion Replay. Um, Not only is it great musically, excellent lyrics, great melody line, great vocal performance by Matt, but it also has one of the most phenomenal guitar dressings, especially through the outro of the song by Johnny Marr. That fade out is one of his best. This was released in 1993, and it's almost impossible to separate from that time. because I listened to it so much at the time that when I hear it, it just, it's one of those deals where it just takes you right back to where you were when it first came out, when you were listening to it the most. And I gotta be honest with you. I mean, 31 years later, I'm just still not tired of it. I was listening to it on the regular, coming up on, the release of the new album in anticipation of the concert a couple weeks ago, um, which was excellent, by the way. If they're still on tour right now, if they haven't passed through your town yet, definitely go. They're playing two sets. The first set is Ensoulment, is in its entirety, which even sounds better live, I think, than it does on the record. And then the second set is just, retrospective, greatest hits, whatever you want to call it. And it's just like a soundtrack of your youth, and such a great, great time. But that's it. That's our the album ranking. I hope you enjoyed it. Later on today, I'm also going to be doing the 1986 top 25 albums. So if you're looking forward to the next volume of that series, and Dr. Byrne and I think, are doing the psychedelic furs in the next couple of weeks. So we'll have that coming up also. So in the meantime, if you liked what you've been watching, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, check us out on all the social media, X, Facebook, Instagram. We do an album of the night most nights. So, whatever I'm listening to that night, I'll pick an album and I'll just throw it up there and share it with you guys and bounce it off you, see if it's something you guys like. And let's talk about music. That's what we're doing this for. Um, so thanks again, and see you next time on Dead End Street.